Well, my congratulations, class of 57. You know, I remember some of you people. I remember much more than I did in the class of 87 or 77 or 67 because you were all brand new. And I still remember or Provo High School as the place that you people attended. I was amazed at how much I was going to learn about teaching the first year that I was at Provo High School. I found out that if you walk up to the front of the class on the first day and tell them you're the teacher, they accept you as a teacher. I thought I'd have to win my way. I found the students when I arrived unbelievably polite, very nice. I was never once in the 30 years that I taught school, I was never once spoken uncomplimentary to. I had students who didn't like me, but they didn't take time to come up and tell me they didn't like me. I liked the faculty, some of them more than others, because like the students, I have personal preferences. I liked the principal. I liked the building, of course, because it was wonderful. And I remember little by little we were getting the lights put in the auditorium, and then we got the curtains. It was a miracle to get the curtains. The stage then looked like a stage, but by the time we got the curtains, we had already done 5 plays out on the stage with no curtain or anything. The play we did the first year was Our Town with Lola Van Wagenen. I remember Abel John Peterson. I don't know whether he remembers me or not. He had his eye on what was perfection, and I wasn't it, and I knew I wasn't, but I didn't think I needed him to tell me all around. But he had no end of ideas for teaching speech and drama, just all of them great. His ideas sound like they were from a first-year freshman up at BYU, because he was wonderful teaching music, but he would have got nowhere teaching drama. I found it easy to direct high school kids because I had worked with people that age. Personally, my mother put me up on the stage when I was 4 years old. Now, it wasn't because my mother was a stage mother. She wasn't. But she was frightened to do anything in church, and she didn't want her boys to be like that. She would teach me little pieces of poetry that I would say on the program, and she would walk me up to the stage and lift me up and put me on the stage and stand and hold my hand while I said things like, "There's a cricket in my closet. I can hear it every night. It trills and chirps and warbles and sings with all its might. I think it may be hiding in the toe of my old shoe." And then it goes on from there. I learned those things. But when I was 6 years old, and I went to grade school in Malad, Idaho, I never had any stage fright. When the teacher asked me to come up to the front of the stage and do something, I always could do it, because I never learned stage fright from anybody. I was never frightened to do a play. I was concerned sometimes afterwards because I didn't think I had done a great job. But I learned the most about being in a play while I was teaching at Provo High School. While I was teaching there, that's when I learned it. I remember that one of the classes was Harold Nathan. He was a sophomore the first year that we were at Provo High School, and he came into my speech class. But Harold went on to go to Cornell University. He then went to Yale. He graduated from the Yale Law School. The last time I saw him, he was at one of the big firms in New York. And I went up to his office, and we spent the last part of the day and the evening in New York going to a play, going out to dinner. And he talked all the time about Provo High School and what it meant to him. And he said, I ended up with a background that no one else in the law school had. I had lived with very wealthy people, but he said, I also grew up, went through high school with plain, ordinary people who he said were some of the smartest people that he ever contacted. And he said he was never hesitant to call Provo his home. I do want to tell you this, that if you see Harold Nathan now, look for a little man with bent shoulders, snow white hair, and those eyes that he always had that looked everywhere. And he has a voice that with no effort can be heard all around New York City. A fine person. And he's just is the same Harold Nathan that we knew, except he's way up the ladder now. Okay, I would like to talk to you a little bit about Ken Waite. He was an influence on my life. He was the assistant principal. And anything that I thought was not going well, I would go in and talk with him. And I remember the first student assembly on the stage with no curtains and no props, and it was difficult. And so I didn't think it had gone well. And I went up to him with the idea of saying, well, I'm sorry that it didn't go better. I think it was a disaster. And he turned to me, and Principal Treeagle was there, and he said, put his arm around mine, because he was tall enough to do that, and put it around my shoulder, and he said, we are starting a new era in theater and assemblies at Provo High School. And I guess he was sincere. I know he was. And after that, I saw a great many things about the assemblies. Quite frankly, I didn't like them any better at the end than I did at the beginning, but I liked the kids more. I learned to appreciate the great things they could do when they wanted. And I learned also to sit back and plug my ears when they were doing things that I didn't fit into anymore. And finally, you know, I didn't want to leave Provo High School, but when I asked a question one time in class, who jilted Miss Haversham? Nobody in the class knew what jilted meant, but I said, well, who dumped Miss Haversham? Everybody knew what dumped meant, and I realized that I had taught too long. And I loved teaching at Provo High School. I loved every day of it. And when I left, I knew I would never get over leaving. But you know, I had to leave. My time was over. I had to go. And I knew it. I knew it.